And we are joined now by Tim Brando, Fox Sports, longtime friend of the show. And Tim, I'm just racking my brain about what we're going to talk about during this interview with you, because it's not like some gigantic news has just dropped. And this is something you've been talking about for a while. You've talked about it with us, but Colorado appears to be on their way back to the Big 12. How do you think this changed from we're committed to the Pac-12 to now going back to their original home so quickly?
Deion Sanders. I think I said on your show shortly after Deion was hired in Colorado that you can look for Colorado to come back into the Big 12. I think that was the intent of the university from the moment they made the commitment to Deion to be their head coach. I don't think there's any question that Deion wants to play and recruit in the Big 12 region of the country. I think that he believes that Colorado is a much better fit in the Big 12 than it would be in the Pac-12. He's right about that, by the way. Times have changed. I think when I first mentioned it to you guys, and I understood it because of the history, you were not particularly happy to hear it because when Colorado left, it was not on the best of circumstances with the Big 12. And I do remember that, and I understood it. But I think that the administrations of schools have changed. Colorado still, as a state, is still a liberal state. The university, however, had really become way over the top liberal during the time when Gary Barnett and Dan Hawkins was trying to take over for him, and issues happened in the aftermath of Barnett leaving. Their administration's trying to turn it around, and they're trying to get college football to become what it was when, they look back on those days in the Big 12 as great days. The old rivalries that they had and big games that they had and the greatness of their program was during that period. That's not lost on Deion. Deion's got a real handle on the history of the game, too. If you ever sit with him, spend any time with him, you realize that. You don't see that necessarily, in media today because he's prime. It's all about prime and his teachings and what he's trying to do. So it's very rare that he gets you see him in any deep conversation about college football history. But trust me when I tell you, he knows it, and he also knows what it would mean to be able to recruit for the future of his program into the conference that is the Big 12 versus that of the Pac-12. And right now, there's just no denying that the Big 12 has been in the stronger position. So I really believe that was the first time I mentioned it to you guys. Mm-hmm. And since that time, more and more people have begun to gravitate to the notion. And even though there's a lot of speculation as to, and I think there probably are a few Deion haters out there that want him to lay an egg this year, I don't think it really matters what he does, honestly. In this particular season, it's his first year. So whatever they get, they get. And coming off the year that they had, if it's anywhere between 2 wins and 5 wins, I'm sure they'll be okay in Boulder with that. But I think for the future of the Big 12 conference, as much as Colorado wants to be in the Big 12, I think Brett Yormark really wants Colorado in a very strong way because what it means to the economy, the strong end of eyeballs, more eyeballs in markets the size of Denver and beyond watching Big 12 football. I think you got to remember this. As great as the Big 12 looks right now, and it looks very good, given the fact that Oklahoma and Texas have exited, and no one is saying that any of these 4 schools replace adequately 2 of the biggest names in college football branding ever, Texas and OU. No one's saying that. But I think the momentum of the Big 12 has been rich and strong with the television rights deal that they were able to claim. But the thing you've got to remember about it, and I said this, just the last couple of years, you go to a college football campus in the Big 12 and you feel it. Okay, you feel the excitement in Waco. You feel it in Stillwater. You feel it literally in every location. At Kansas State, it's clear that college football is a really big deal. But what is it missing? It's missing market size. It's missing, short of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area, and now Houston, which I think the catalyst for them was clearly the market size. Getting Denver gives you a triumvirate of major cities that could really help boomerang eyeballs and get you better television ratings, and that has been what has cost. It's been the cost, really, the problem for the Big 12, even when they've been great and had really wonderful stories to tell. The ratings for their games have not been on measure, anyway, as strong as even some of the Pac-12 teams. I mean, historically, Washington, Oregon, schools like that have gotten bigger television ratings than, and we're not even mentioning USC, obviously, or UCLA, but Pac-12 schools, if you measure their ratings in terms of viewership for games that are on national television, those schools are going to rank higher than the upper echelon of the Big 12. That'll change, I think, as time rolls on and people get accustomed to the new format, the 12-team expansion, all of that. But I just think Colorado is something that's of great value to the league, and I also think Colorado views the league very positively because of the fertile recruiting ground and just the comfort zone of recruiting in this area for Deion Sanders.
So, Tim, as you mentioned, you've been talking about it for, really Oklahoma, Texas got this ball rolling, and particularly as far as this part of the story, USC and UCLA. So it's been, a subject, all of this realignment expansion for quite a while. We've had many conversations about it. And I said at the top of the show, it just feels like, all right, there's got to be some type of a breaking point or a decision, especially with football season coming up and following media days in the rear view and all of that. For you, you've been confident that something was going to happen, but did last Friday and media days and what you heard from Kliavkoff solidify that, or how did you take what occurred last week?
Well, yeah, I thought, he definitely let you know that he was very actively involved in the pursuit, and that regardless of what was coming out of other corridors of the country, and really doing it, I thought, in a very professional manner. Especially given the fact that some of his counterparts have I know said some things that he felt were not on the up and up, and alienated him in some respects. He's kept it classy, but at the same time, he's been very active and has been, without question, the most progressive of the commissioners in terms of not only what the here and now is, but also what the future needs to be. Trying to create new revenue streams by going to Mexico, telling television executives, hey, I like what you're doing with the USFL. We'd like to do something similar to that, create greater access to make our product look different than the other college football products. Those are all things that you don't hear the established commissioners of college football talk about. And again, a lot of that has to do with his background in NASCAR. What was NASCAR's greatness built on, really? It was built on television access, and how cool it was to hear the guys that were along pit road, talking to their drivers. People love that. And I think he sees college football in a similar light in terms of what can be done to make the viewing of Big 12 football a bigger deal. And by looking into maybe taking a game here or there with two of his teams to Mexico, some might scoff at that, but he's looking at it as another opportunity for creating a revenue stream. That's what he's trying to do. He doesn't just want to make the television money that he's guaranteed to make from ESPN and Fox. He wants to create more revenue streams so they can get closer, they being the Big 12, to that big check that the Big Ten and the SEC get. And to do that, you've got to be creative.
Tim, how does the Pac-12 salvage anything here?
That's a great question. They Kliavkoff was very candid last week when he said that he believed that everyone in his stable was good with their grant of rights, and that they knew that they had 10 solid teams that were looking to move forward. I think if Colorado leaves, if this report by Pete Thamel is accurate, and I can't remember the last time when I saw a report from Pete Thamel that wasn't accurate, then I think it starts a chain of events that could be very similar to what we've seen in past years whenever, an announcement was made about this or that team. Now, look, we are very close to the start of the season, and the USC-UCLA thing happened on the 4th of July in 2022. Now, this is a little later. We're at the end of July and really less than a month away from week 0 and the first college football games to be played of the season. But listen, it's business as usual based on old television contracts for this year. So it is what it is. You can move forward. But for all of those Pac-12 teams, all of them that have been telling Kliavkoff this and telling Kliavkoff that, they have been waiting, and have been as patient as one can be. And if Colorado's gone, you can bet those presidents, their boards, the boards of regions or boards of supervisors, as the case may be at these schools, they have to have had a plan B in mind. And I don't think that if Colorado's gone, Utah cannot be far behind, and the 2 Arizona schools cannot be far behind. The question then becomes, and I heard today at the Big Ten Media Days, my friend Tony Petitti talking about the future. He was asked directly the question about how does the league, how do you see the league with 16 moving forward? Could it be more than that in the not too distant future? And he said, well, in talking with his constituents, they want to concentrate on UCLA and USC, which they're doing, but their schedule's already done for next season. The 24 college football schedule for the Big Ten is out. They have a plan in place, yes, but if suddenly the Big Ten looks at the situation in the Pac-12 and they see what's going to happen becoming a reality with Colorado, then I think there's going to be an 11th hour meeting in some smoke-filled rooms in and around Indianapolis and Lucas Oil Stadium, where they're having their media days, and into Chicago when they get back to their offices. Because I think that the hierarchy of some of the schools now, especially with travel for the non-revenue producing sports, they may be looking just from the standpoint of saving some of that enormous television rights money they're getting, saving some of that money that they would have to spend on travel for non-revenue producing sports to get USC and UCLA some company out west. I think it would be a matter of convenience more so than a matter of, hey, we're doing this in the best interest of growing the Big Ten. I don't think it necessarily means that much more financially to their television deal because they're already getting more than anybody else. But I do think that if the opportunity presented itself and they knew that with what's going on with Colorado, meaning the Big 12 is getting even larger, I think it triggers actions everywhere. I think the SEC will have to look at, what do we need to do? Should we become a little more aggressive and challenge the ACC with regard to their grant of rights with some of these schools that want in our league? And I think certainly Oregon and Washington would be prime targets for the Big Ten if they were to expand and start thinking about going to 20.
So, Tim, as you pointed out, you've kind of been on this for a while, and we've obviously, again, talked to you about it for quite a while, a couple of years now. But I'm just curious, when you saw the news come down, however you got it, Twitter or what have you, was it a whoa, like this is finally happening, or were you like, I knew it? What was kind of your reaction? Because we definitely had some whoas over here.
Yeah, no, I even tweeted out. I think I said somebody else can track Twitter to see exactly when I wrote it on Twitter. But I do know, because I'm talking to you guys right now, I know that I was talking to you after the decision was made with the Big 12 and with USC and UCLA last year, and we knew what was happening with the conference growing with Brett Yormark. I told you at that time when Dion was hired, when that came through, I said, look out. Yep. And I said it on your show. I'm sure it was the first time I ever said it, too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of some conversations I'd had right before I was on your show with some people that I trust. Deion Sanders wanted to be in the Big 12. And people close to him knew that. And I think the school knew that. And without question, if the school knew it, then Brett Yormark's no doubt probably found out about it. So, no, I thought, I was not surprised at all. And I didn't want to, I put out a tweet. I'm not going to say I'm, Mr. Know-It-All. I'm not. And I'm not going to say I don't want to do that. But at the same time, you just have to follow not only your own feelings and your thoughts, but through the years, the people you talk to that you trust, you know why you can trust them. You just do. And this just makes all the sense in the world. Colorado geographically sits in a spot where historically, those great programs that they had with McCartney and that great staff of his, which included Les Miles and Gary Barnett and so many others that were part of that staff that won a national championship in '90. That team was made up of a lot of kids from South Central LA. A lot of California kids were on that team. When the Pac-12, LA was you could get a lot of kids out of LA to come to Denver, and you could and a lot of other programs in the Pac-12 that were out, as they say, in the country, like a Utah, could get a lot of those kids. Well, that stops happening the moment you've got NIL, and it stops happening the moment USC and UCLA go to the Big Ten. Now they're playing on a much larger stage. So you're not going to be able to get those kids in Los Angeles to build your program as its foundation, as Colorado did. One of the great recruiting areas for them, people forget how close Denver is to Texas. Okay? It is geographically not that far. A quick flight into Texas, and that's where you got to go to get some of these players. You're not going to just deal with kids in and around Colorado. Colorado is a beautiful place, but they don't necessarily have the greatest high school football there. So you got to recruit nationally in a place like that, and that's what Deion's all about. And when you're in the Pac-12, and that league that's one of the reasons why I think Babcock was trying to counter with SMU. All this talk about SMU was the Pac-12 trying to get into where? Texas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And specifically the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. Can you imagine what Deion in a conference that's got much of its base being in the state of Texas, what he could do from a recruit standpoint in the Metroplex? I mean, my God. He can have a much better opportunity of getting all the things that he wants more quickly by being in the Big 12 than he ever could in the Pac-12.
Tim, if you are one of those other four corner schools, how quickly do you want to move on this?
I think as fast as I can. The Oregon is all caught up in college football. I mean, Eugene is just a tremendous college football town. It's the state of Oregon, in and of itself, is not as college football crazy as Eugene is, but Eugene really is, and they've got a large alumni base, and they want to be a major factor. They want to be, and so does Phil Knight. We want them to be a major player in college football. Washington has gone through a lot. When Chris Peterson was coaching, I think that they were in a position, they were poised to be, a consistent top 10 team. Well, now he's left. Their administration's gone through some issues, and they've had a coaching carousel. They do have a great coach now. They really lucked in. Not the guy that replaced Chris, his old defensive coordinator, did not work out. This guy's really good. He's sharp. And if they're smart, and I think the people that are in power there are, they're really going to look at it and say, if we're going to bolt, now is the time for us to do it. And I just think that either one of them would be great gets for the Big Ten. I do think they academically want to line up with the Big Ten rather than the Big 12. And I think that those would be their options. But I do believe the Arizona schools and Utah would be happy to come into the Big 12. And it would make a lot more geographical sense for them to do just that.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Tim, when we originally scheduled this interview, we obviously had no idea this was going to happen. So when luck meets opportunity, this has just been great. So thank you as always for hopping on with us. We love having you on. I hope that you get into Waco this year so we can actually, have you in the building.
Well, I hope so too. You guys have been asking me. I just found out, and I can tell you. You want some breaking news on my schedule?
Yeah, sure.
I can give it to you. Okay. I really thought, and we were talking about Oregon and Texas Tech there in the second week. I really thought that might be the game that Spencer and I got. But as I found out, that game is up against Texas and Alabama, so maybe there wouldn't be quite as much viewership for that game as originally thought. But week one. Actually, week 0, Spencer and I are going to work in the new stadium in San Diego. The Ohio U Bobcats are going to play Brady Hoke's San Diego State team on the 26th of August, and he and I are going to go out there. I think I might take my sticks to Torrey Pines. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Might have to do that. And then the following week, instead of doing that game with Oregon and Texas Tech, we're going to do the game after that between Stanford and USC. So we'll have Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and the Trojans. Get to see Lincoln Riley. It'll be the first Lincoln Riley coached USC game that I've had. So looking forward to that in week 2. Week 3, which I think, of all the games that I think I had indicated I wanted and was hopeful of getting in the Big 12, this one was the one I wanted the most. TCU at Houston in week 3. So that's a game that I really think is going to be a lot of fun. And I think TCU will handle Colorado to start, probably have a strong record going in. And Dana Holgerson and the people at Houston are giddy about getting back into the Big 12. But they got to step it up, and that'll be a very important game for them at home. So that's how we start. A week 0 game in San Diego, followed by Stanford USC, and then after that Stanford USC game, really I left out one week. The second week we've got Michigan State on a Friday on September the 1st. Michigan State's at home against Central Michigan. Spencer and I are going to do that game on Friday night, so we'll get a Big Ten game in week 2 on Friday the 1st, and then we go to SC for week 3. Actually it'd be week 2 of the regular season, but our 3rd game of the year. And then in the week 3 season, our 4th game, that'll be TCU at Houston.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Tim, we'll talk to you again soon.
You got it, fellas. Always good to be with you.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Brando, one of our favorites here on the show. And